everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. Always appreciated. Want to remind everybody we recently hit 3,500 subscribers, and I surely appreciate everybody's support. Donations have been wonderful. Appreciate those as well. But make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe too. Okay, and then of course the StreamYard link is there for anybody that wants to join the panel. Tonight we're going to talk about redressing the address. I'm going to go over the International Mail Manual and the Domestic Mail Manual material real quick here. And of course, the one thing I do want to start with is a couple articles on my Facebook that I was looking up as relations to the information we've been going over. And that is the wrong one. I wanted to start with this one. Okay, and this here is, it says certificate, comma, trial by. So it's trial by certificate. And it says a mode of trial now little in use. Just because it's not in use doesn't mean it's not valid. It's just in little in use. It is resorted to in cases where the fact in issue lies out of the cognizance of the court and the judges in order to determine the question are obliged to reply upon the solemn averment or information of persons in such a station as affords them the clearest and most competent knowledge of the truth. And this is what I was saying, that certificate, that birth certificate, has your name on it. So you're the one that is clearest and most competent to know the truth. Know thyself. So let's go back up and look at this. It's from July 15th, 2021. And I want to read a little bit of it first before we get into the other stuff. It says a certification of trust or trust certificate is a short document. Is a short document signed by the trustee that simply states the trust's essential terms and certifies the trust's authority without revealing private details of the trust that are relevant to the pending transaction. So again, it's outside of the court. It's a transaction. Okay. As such, one can draft one for assignment as settlor trustee of pending accounts within those transactions, wherein a certificate of title is an official state or municipal issued document that identifies the owners of personal or real property. Again, you're the ultimate owner, as that document shows. That's why it's got that name on it. No one else's is like it. A certificate of title, that's that motor vehicle certificate of title, things like that, it's the same thing. See, a birth certificate is a certificate of title. It's an entitlement. Provides documentary evidence of the right of ownership. Usually it applies to real estate, though it also may pertain to a business, boat, or vehicle, among other things. Among other things. When issued for real property, such as land or a house, by a title insurance company, the certificate of title is a statement of opinion on the status of the title, based on a thorough examination or title search of specified public records. The enumeration at birth, as I've explained, follows its minimum standards for no registration in the United States. So we're getting it from the state. We're going to surrender it to the United States for that said registration, so it can be all the creditors can be made whole, settling of all accounts, clearing them out. The title thus embodies the right or evidence of the right of ownership of real property. Equity imputes or deems the beneficiary to be the true owner. Certificate, a document in use in the English Custom House. No goods can be exported by certificate except foreign goods. Formerly imported, on which a whole or a part of the customs paid, not to be paid, but the customs that were paid, already paid, prepaid, taxes and insurance, prepaid, on importation is to be drawn back. Remember, we just spoke about drawback a couple days ago. Is to be drawn back. See, that payment on importation, it wasn't meant to be imported. Remember, we're not doing this for importation. We're doing it as a transfer of property to the beneficiary for his rightful use. It also says a ticket, a warrant, a written assurance, or official representation. That's that official document that some act, as in the act of Congress that has to support it, has or has not been done, paid or to be paid, payable on death, or some event occurred, or some legal formality been complied with, a written assurance made or issuing from some court and designed as a notice of things done therein, or as a warrant or authority to some other court, judge, or officer. A statement of some fact in a writing signed by the party certifying. That's that one right up here. Where was it? Where was it? Title thus embodies the right or evidence of the right of ownership of real property. Just by you holding it, just by the state saying over the phone, I ordered mine over the phone, the birth certificates, and just by doing that, the state allowed for that transaction. Okay, so that allowance by the state is much like a certificate by a public officer, is a statement written and signed, but not necessarily or customarily sworn to, which is by law made evidence of the truth of the facts stated for all or for certain purposes, for drawback. And I'm the holder. I'm the holder in due course, right to enforce it for its certain purposes of drawback. I'm the one that supposedly paid all those fines, fees, penalties, taxes, and everything, and I want them drawn back because I wasn't supposed to pay them. I wasn't qualified. Now that I know better, I can't lawfully or legally do it unless I have an oath of office. Until that day can happen, I'm not qualified. So I have to do everything through private. So we're removing everything from the public by settling all these accounts. And all the remainder is going to be reverted to a private estate trust. That's all we're doing. So now let's look at the next one. And this is July 17th, 2020. It says, here you support that the trust is the law once established and expressed. And its definition, law of the case. The decision, judgment, opinion, or rulings on formal appeal or writ of error become law of the case. And again, remember equities, the entrance into equity is mistake or error, errors and omissions. That's what we're doing. We're making a claim against the record because it's not qualified properly. We've been entering data elements in error ourselves. That's our own fault. We repent. We can't do it anymore. Goes on to say, so too, a holding of an appellate court on writ of certiorari, binding on a subsequent appeal or writ of error, or on a subsequent proceeding or trials in trial court, or in a subsequent suit between same parties. The doctrine expresses practice of courts generally to refuse to reopen what has been decided. All 94 cases that are sitting down there at the local courthouse with that name on it, Keith Little or Keith Orland Little, they're all summary judgments. It expresses the rule that final judgment of highest court is final determination of parties' rights. So that hasn't been determined yet. And I have the right to go to the highest court with my declaration of stating so. Again, the highest court, I would presume, is the postal court. The doctrine has reference to decisions on legal questions and principles of law announced, and does not embrace questions of fact or decisions on questions of fact. The doctrine includes all errors relied on for reversal, drawbacks, whether mentioned in court's opinion or not outside of the courts, and all errors lurking in record on first appeal, which might have been, but were not expressly relied on. So again, two articles, July 17th, 2020. Just punch in the search engine law of the case. You just go to my profile on Facebook, and you'll see it's Keith Little, El Hotep Second Week Peril. Go over here to search. And there's another one, Basis of the Coffee Bean Case. Well, let's try this. Maybe it's supposed to be all uppercase. I don't understand this. Should be right there. Huh. Well, let's just go back. July 17th, 2020. Here's your support. Let's do it this way. Well, I'll be darned. I don't know why it doesn't show up. Well, let's skip that then. My apologies. Didn't mean to be boring anyone there. And we got Jesse with us. How you doing tonight, Jesse?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Keith?
I am well. I am well. We're just going over some information. I was talking about certificate and certification of trust, and this stuff I've been researching for a long time, and I've got a lot of information. I wish I could source that for you. That's funny how it's not linking up there. You should be able to put it in the search engine on my Facebook page there. It should come right up, but it's not showing it unless it's deep in there. I don't know why it's pulling all this other stuff up. But anyway, we were talking last about the lease, that postal lease. Remember, I've spoken on that change of address form, but there's a different form that people can use. What's the name of that form, Jesse? Hello?
I believe it's called Certificate of Title Transfer for Leased or Presumed Assignment or something? Assumption?
Got it. Got it. Okay. So what we have here, oops, too big. Certificate of transfer of title to leased property and lease assignment and assumption. So you got property, and in a transfer of title, you're going to lease it as property with a lease assignment and assumption to the Postal Service for equity. Remember, it talks about grantor. We went over this the other night. This is why trust and its formation and comprehension of how it works is so important. You're the grantor. Now you just got a piece of property. You're a holder in due course, and you get to transfer it. Expenses incidental to transfer of title to the Postal Service. And in that transfer of title to the Postal Service, you're going to have them hold that title. Now they're the holder in due course, but that holder in due course has a lease assignment and assumption of obligations and duties to keep an accurate balance so that anything that is out of balance for 3 days, they have a duty to research and resolve so that it balances with the general ledger. It's a United States business. It damn well better balance with that ledger. You know what I mean?
I do, but I also think that this is used to transfer rights, titles, and interests to lease assignments that have already been established that have never been addressed accordingly that may have been presumed to be abandoned.
Correct. And that's by redressing the address. That's what we're doing here. We told you there's managing partner, power of attorney, etc. You're going to have your documentation that you're going to attach to this form or an affidavit outlining the information on this form and your directive for that transfer. You're the one that gets to direct all these transfers. So if you want to direct it as a transfer in the name of the title of the trust as a merchant transaction and imply that the taxes will be applied for that transaction and actually do an export or import, that would be fine and dandy. But again, we have different options, and those options we're finding are greater and greater towards the donation side, where we again, that prepayment, they're going to ask you to prepay. You can prepay things by just transporting them or transaction wise, providing documentation that certain charitable organizations get donations. That's what cuts out the third party intervener in those private contracts between two individuals. That's
I
all
think
what that's all these public offices are working for. All the administration, executive, legislative, judicial, they're all working for that third party position to get paid. Doesn't need to be there. Go ahead.
I'm thinking that I'm gonna put up here whereas P.O. Box, blah 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 blah, the grantor, okay, and enter this lease dated, and I'm gonna put the new lease on there, and then I'm gonna put my estate underneath there so that I want the postmaster to pay for my P.O. box. So I'm trying to figure out how to retitle it so he's responsible for it.
Well, what you're doing is you're issuing equal consideration in security instruments. You know, a stamp is a security instrument, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got a certificate of title that they're now a holder in due course of, and that just goes to making sure that you get the franking privileges of an account that's already established as prepaid. That's a prepaid account. Customer agrees to make third-party payment so long as it's understood that credit is given to the customer's account. So if I use a credit account to make a payment to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit, that agreement says that I extend the credit so they can have that circulation in that battery system of currency for their fiat currency, and I get my charge back, my charger back. It's the same concept. And this here is 31 U.S. Code 3128, and it's proof of death to support payment. Remember the payable on death?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A finding of death made by an officer or employee of the United States government authorized by law to make the finding is sufficient proof of death to allow credit in the accounts of a Federal Reserve Bank or accountable official of the Department of the Treasury in a case involving the transfer, exchange, reissue, redemption, or payment of obligations of the government, including obligations guaranteed by the government, for which the Secretary of Treasury acts as a transfer agent. So again, the transfer agent is already registered, Treasury. Secretary of Treasury is the registered agent for the transfers. And it's an obligation of the government, which is already guaranteed, 18 U.S.C. 8, obligations and other securities of the United States includes all bonds, and then there's a nice little statement in there, stamps and other representatives of value, comma, and it's all lowercase. That's a very plain statement, other representatives of value and stamps. So it goes to the franking privilege again of freedom of expression to be able to express that it's already paid. Here's the account number. A number in lieu of the name and address. That makes sense? Affidavit of conveyance, much the same thing. Yep. So let's look at the next one. We're going to get into the address change now as it relates to the International Mail Manual. This is International Mail Manual over here in the top left corner. And this is USPS.com. And you see the little registered mark there on their Postal Explorer site. And we're at section 122, addressing, 122.1. Destination address. International destination addresses must comply with the standards in this section. International, not national, as it would be in the domestic mail manual, but international, and it says must comply with the standards in this section. In items C, D, and I, the term full legal name means the name that corresponds to the addressee's government-issued identification. If the individual's name and number identify the record, then I should give the address of the Social Security Administration, correct? The addressee's government-issued identification. See, I don't use a national or national address format anymore. The addressee's first, middle initial, or first name, middle initial if applicable, and last name. At least the entire right half of the address side of the envelope, package, or card should be reserved for the destination address. That's technically where it's supposed to go. So if you get something where the address is on the left-hand side, then that is improperly addressed. Postage labels and postal notations. If the mail item requires a custom declaration form, mailers may use an electronically generated combined custom form and shipping label. Addresses must appear in ink or be typewritten. Pencil is unacceptable. The addressee's full legal name, see note above, and complete address must appear legibly with Roman letters and Arabic numerals, all placed lengthwise on one side of the item. For parcels, addresses should also appear on a separate slip enclosed in the parcel. Addresses in Russian, Greek, Arabic, Hebrew, Cyrillic, Japanese, or Chinese characters must bear an interline translation in English of the addressee's full legal name, see note above, and complete address, including country. Including country. If the English translation is not known, the foreign language words must appear in Roman characters, either printed or scripted. For an optional addressing procedure that applies only to direct country containers or international priority mail or international surface airlift mail, respectively. Mail may not be addressed to a person in one country in care of a person in another country. Mail may not be addressed to box holder or householder, but you'll see occupant all the time. The following exceptional form of address in French or a language known in the country of destination may appear on printed matter, the addressee's name, or occupant. Example, Mr. Thomas Clark, or occupant. The house number and street address or box number must appear when the mail is addressed to towns or cities. The house number and street address or box number must appear when mail is addressed to towns or cities. And so when you address it to a town or a city and you use that legal name above as a resident, you are presumed as deemed necessary by the board, the Secretary of Commerce as the executive chair, and the Secretary of Treasury deemed necessary as a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent for those towns or cities. The address of items sent to general delivery must indicate the addressee's full legal name, see note above, and the city and country of destination. The city and country of designation or destination. Not just the city, state, and zip code, but the city and country. The use of just initials, simple given names, fictitious names. What's the legal name? What's the legal name? Serious question here, folks. Or figures is not permitted on articles addressed for general delivery. All lines of the delivery address should appear in all capital letters. The city destination must appear in capital letters together with the correct postcode, number, or delivery zone number, if any. The last line of the address must show only the country name. United States of America. Written in full, no abbreviations and in capital letters. If possible, the address should have no more than 5 lines. For example, and then they show you here. Exception to Canada, there must be 2 spaces between the province abbreviation and the postal code as shown below. Return address tells the U.S. Postal Service or foreign post where to return a mail piece that cannot be delivered. Due to heightened security concerns, the U.S. Postal Service recommends a complete return address on mail pieces. See 122.23 for when a return address is required. A mail piece may include only one return address, and the mailer must place it so that it does not affect either the city of the address of destination or the application of service labels and notations. In other words, all the stamps and postmarks and everything on the right-hand side, saying that it should be on the left-hand side. Elements of return address. A complete return address must include the sender's full legal name and complete return address in Roman letters and Arabic numerals. It may not include just initials except where they are an adopted trade name. Keith Orton Little, FBU. Adopted trade name. You can make one up yourself. And that clarifies a distinction, particularly when it comes to that presumed legal entity. Required use of return address. In both mailings, all mail pieces must bear a U.S. origin return address visible on the outside of the mail piece. So why not put United States of America as that 4th line on the outside of the mail piece? For the purpose of this section, a bulk mailing is any IPA or ISAL mailing or any other mailing paid with an advance deposit account. Remember I talked about an advance deposit account. And presented to the U.S. Postal Service for acceptance. In addition, a return address is required for mail pieces bearing a customs form under 123.7. Michael's got another good one. NAC, natural area code, as data elements and or geographic coordinates rather than a address, municipal address, or a postal box. Absolutely. So let's go on to the next one, unless you got anything there, Jesse. Okay. We'll continue on. It says this is standard addressing formats from the Domestic Mail Manual A010 General Addressing Standards. To standard addressing formats, A10 describes the required elements of a complete address and proper placement of delivery and return addresses. It also provides standards for addressing military mail periodicals and using a return address. Now remember, the distinction here is this is the domestic mail manual. So on it, address, content, and placement. Nowhere are they going to talk about the country. Okay? So it says, the delivery address specifies the location to which the USPS is to deliver a mail piece, except for mail prepared with detached address labels under A060. The piece must have the address of the intended recipient visible and legible only on the side of the piece bearing postage. All mail not bearing a simplified address under A020 must bear a delivery address that contains at least the following elements in this order from the top line. Intended recipient's name or other identification. Keith Orland Little, FBU. They don't need the name. They don't need the legal name. You can put it the Keith Carnegie Foundation. It's not going to give them the legal name. You can name it in regards to your daughter, your grandfather, or great grandfather. They can't use that legal name. It's not a legal name. It's a name that you use with an abbreviation on it. Private Foundation. Keith Orland Little, PF. What's PF stand for? And remember, it's all uppercase, right? Same thing. They're telling you how to do it, folks. Private mailbox designator or alternative number. Natural area code, like the man just said. And number if the mail piece is addressed to a commercial mail receiving agency. And number if the mail piece is addressed to a commercial mail receiving agency address. I'm not receiving commercial mail. I do not accept commercial mail. Street and number include the apartment number or use the post office box number or general delivery or rural route or highway contract route designation and box number as applicable. City and state or state abbreviation. The city is any acceptable mailing name for the 5-digit code or 5-digit zip code serving the intended recipient, saying it's a service provider. Okay? The city is a service provider, as shown in Publication 65, National 5-digit zip code and post office directory, and the USPS city-state product. This is the state and local government securities. Blue sky security laws through your state statutes, allowing them to take private assets and convert them to public issuance of debt. Zip codes are required on express mail, pre-sorted and automation rate first-class mail, periodicals mail, standard mail, package services mail, except single-piece rate parcel post. Parcel post is not mail. That's talking about articles, dispatch articles. All mail sent to military addresses within the United States and to a APO and FPO addresses, all official mail, penalty mail. All official mail is penalty mail. All business reply mail and all merchandise return service mail. Unless required above, zip codes may be omitted from single-piece rate first-class mail, including priority mail, single-piece rate parcel post, and pieces bearing a simplified address. Natural area code, a simplified address. What do you think about that one? Still with me, Jesse?
Yep, I'm still here. Just kind of absorbing everything that you're saying.
Okay, now we have the next one here. Well, and it all goes to the thing that I've been talking about with the public education system. They teach you how to write the legal name. Oops, what happened here? Uh-oh. Let me refresh, guys. I'll be right back. Okay. Where were we at? That one was the A010, so we are looking at, make sure we got the screen up. Okay. This one here is Domestic Mail Manual 602 addressing elements of addressing. So this is going to tell us basically the same thing, but it's going to use some different language. There's complete address definition. A complete address has all the address elements necessary to allow an exact match with the current USPS ZIP+4 product. Okay, so they're talking about a trade named trademark product of which the U.S. Postal Service, as a representative agent, is the trustee for. They're protecting their product. To obtain the finest level of ZIP+4 code for delivery address, a complete address may be required on mail at some automation prices. Complete address elements. A complete delivery address includes address name or other identifier and or firm name where applicable. Now, don't you have a firm book?
Yes, I do.
And what's the firm name? HENL?
Uh, oh, you mean like what is the issue of it? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, do they give the firm name, or did you make the firm name up? Because
No,
the
it
firm
is.
name that they use on court documents is literally 4 letters, all uppercase, and it's just the first 4 letters of your last name. So you wouldn't normally recognize it if your last name has only got 4 letters.
Right.
But if your
Well,
letters got,
it
but
would
if your
actually
last
be
name,
it'd actually be 3 letters.
well, the one on the court documents show 4 letters, and this correlates to a stock ticker symbol the same way. It uses 4 letters.
Well, I know when they do your estate, the name gets cut down to your first, your middle name, and only the last 3 letters of your last name. And that's a
The
post
last,
office. That's a
yeah,
post office designation.
that's the last 3 letters you said.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, see, the courts use the first 4 letters. So let's continue on. It says private mailbox designator and number 300 or number 300. Urbanization name Puerto Rico only, or zip code prefixes 006 to 009 if area is so designated. Street number and name, including pre-directional suffix and post-directional, as shown in USPS ZIP+4 product, for the delivery address or rural route and box number, highway contract route and box number, or post office box number. blah, blah, blah. P.O. box is used incorrectly if preceding a private box number. Example, a college mailroom. So you can't use saying you're living at a dormitory and they've got 113 boxes and you have mail sent to P.O. Box 110. It doesn't work that way. It's going to go to the post office P.O. Box and you're never going to get it. They're going to redirect it. You have to give it the college dorm address and then put suite number 110. Like it says here, secondary address, unit designator, and number.
Right. So what I did for the example here is I have a P.O. box. It has its own designation. It's doing business. And then I changed my address on my identification to the physical address of the post office. Okay. And they told me they gave it the designation Unit 41. But that's only the first two numbers of a series of 6 digits. So they broke it down to where that mail comes into the general delivery under Unit 41 under that zip code. And then I applied for, or they applied for on my behalf, the premium mailbox service where they would literally pick up your mail from that general delivery, which is that physical address unit, and bring it over and put it in your P.O. box for you. It's called a premium mailbox service. So you can Google, you can find that form on the USPS also.
Yeah, we got to talk, brother. So anyway, understand that they don't talk about. They say state, but that's a different term than country. Okay. Now the last one I got is again with the Postal Service. They're a one-stop shop for bonds, insurance, and taxes. And this is because they also have the drawback for bonds, insurance, and taxes, all those levies, fines, fees, penalties, everything. So I urge people to get familiar with this information and understand these are the registered agents for that public trust. And it's a postal trust.
Can you scroll down a little bit to the fidelity bond there? Does it have any information on that?
Oh, yeah.
So does that mean we have to surrender to Fidelity first and then link it, or is it just they have access to Fidelity through their system?
No, Fidelity bond is actually, oh, there it is. Fidelity bond is actually relative to specifically the Postal Service. 7-3.1.3 Fidelity bonds. A fidelity bond is used, remember that term assure, the faithful performance of an employee's duties to his or her employer and the employer's clients.
Okay, I got it now. It's for the people who work there.
Right.
They have to
So,
be bonded.
So the fidelity bond is for the mayor. Faithful performance of an employee's duties to his employer. So the employer holds a fidelity bond for the police. The mayor holds a fidelity bond for the police. That is their surety bonds. They're covered by a surety bond. The mayor holds a fidelity bond. And in order for you to hold an obligation to the obligor to the obligation, you have to know the parties. He's the obligated party, and the officers are liable. Okay, those are two different terms. And it says the bond is used to cover losses such as employee theft or embezzlement or ill-gotten gains, unjust enrichment through bad faith activities, unlawful arrests, things like that. A fidelity bond in an amount sufficient to protect the interest of the Postal Service may be required for any contract that requires supplier employees to handle Postal Service funds. That's why they all get those franking privileges. On the state level, they can issue the black ones, postage prepaid. Remember, everything's prepaid. That's a tax. and that's a security instrument of the Postal Service, a stamp, United States Postal Service stamp. When a fidelity bond is required, Provision 7-3 fidelity bond requirements must be included in the RFP, and the amount must be reviewed periodically to ensure that the Postal Service's interest is adequately protected. And again, they're the ones that hold the obligation on the capital, which is the equity. Contract postal unit bonds impose obligations on a supplier similar to those required under performance, payment, and fidelity bonds. Contract postal unit bonds, is that one of them PO boxes there for general delivery? Then they talk about performance bonds, payment bonds. Deposit of assets instead of surety bonds. That birth certificate is an asset. You can put a value to it and deposit it. The value would be the credits as a remainder that are reverted and merged with a new private estate trust account held with the Postal Service, either through the enterprise payment system or the Postal One online payment system for a master trust account. And this says, in lieu of any bond other than performance or payment bond for construction contracts, the supplier may put on deposit specific types of assets with the Postal Service instead of furnishing a bond. The only assets acceptable in place of a surety bond are U.S. Treasury securities, bills, notes, or bonds with a maturity date less than 5 years from the date of the contract, together with an agreement authorizing collection or sale in the event of the default. This is why you transfer the title to them as an equitable donation, is what I'm hearing. So long as you retrieve your remain with your interest as to the equity, the par value of the bills, notes, or bonds must be at least equal to the penal amount of the bond. A certified check, cashier's check, bank draft, postal money order, or currency. The deposit must be at least equal to the penal amount of the surety bond and payable solely to the order of the United States Postal Service. Sounds like they're the judicial account holder if you payable solely to the order of the United States Postal Service. When the supplier pledges assets instead of providing a surety bond, that's that equitable donation, the supplier must complete the bond form as principal, and the bond form must describe the asset pledged. The contracting officer must deposit currency, checks, and drafts with the appropriate accounting service center with instructions to hold the funds for the benefit of the supplier. An inventory of the items deposited with the ASC must be maintained by the contracting officer and kept as required component of the contract file. This is that general ledger. For all purposes involving the furnishing of a bond other than payment bonds for construction contracts, include provision 7-4, deposit of asset requirements in the RFP. Clause 7-3, deposit of assets instead of surety bonds, must be included in every contract requiring a bond for which assets may be deposited in lieu of bonds. I think you're on the right track, brother. What do you say?
Well, question is we're going to turn a surety bond into a registered security.
No,
So
it's evidence. It's evidence.
Well,
As
We're
it
gonna
sits, it remains hearsay, brother.
well,
It is only
hang.
evidence, never
I
been
know.
truly
Hang on a
established.
second. Listen. All we have to do is create an affidavit and create an event. This whole system is based upon the memorialization of events, and events can be
Correct.
registered, and these events that are registered go into book entry from one state to another. So it starts with your basic premise of a transfer of title from one entity to another with a simple gift deed, right? With an acknowledgement that follows up this gift on behalf of whoever you're gifting it to, with a power of attorney. Now we've created an event that can be memorialized with an affidavit that can be registered, okay, and be converted from public entry to book entry and can be given credit on account. All right, so
Correct.
it's doing conversions and gifts, okay, and going through the whole process of moving title around in trust, right? Because that's really all trust is at the end of the day. It's moving title around, reappropriating rights, titles, and interests to where you need it to go to, you know, to facilitate what it is that you need to have taken care of, right? I mean, in a nutshell, that's really what it breaks down to.
Yeah,
Or
understanding the partnership is Josh Jr. And your partnership is with yourself. As trustor, you assign yourself as trustee so that you can properly uphold the law of the case under your trust. That's all we're doing. They have no, and this is why I say you have to understand um, the knowledge of it. You have to do your research. Don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government, for crying out loud. Don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. And sometimes I wish I didn't get into it, but the more I get into it, the more I see how it works, the better we're going to be able to put this together step by step and show you how we're supposed to be bringing our children up into this system in making sure that they coin their words or purse their lips. It is very a delicate system in a balance of keeping it with the people. You have a republic if you can keep it, but the only way you can do that is to know the laws. We have to start teaching our children the laws as how they're regulated. That's trust law.
absolutely. I understand the basis that everything is based in some type of trust law, and it just
Yep.
expresses itself in a different, a DBA is a form of a trust, an LLC is a form of a trust. They just apply different principles, within trust law, okay, to facilitate some type of tax break or whatever it is, to create a holding company or to move assets around or, you know, to disguise something or whatever it may be. It's just a way to do business, but everything operates in this basic trust format. And people are like, I don't
Absolutely.
understand it. It's going to take me forever. I'm like, not really. You've been doing it your whole life. Your whole life has been consisting of operating in some type of trust. You just need to snap out of not realizing it and come to the realization that even in the Wizard of Oz, they were talking about a trust. And when I told that to my mom and I told her what it was really about and revealed to her that, Dorothy didn't wear uh, ruby slippers, she actually had silver slippers, she got mad at me. Okay, because I was ruining her childhood fairy tale and turning it into a political thing, and she didn't want
Yep.
to hear. She said,
Yep.
"Don't talk to me no more."
Absolutely. And that's the foundation of it. Like I said, folks, is that trust and your donations, your taxes are the same thing. That's what tax comes from, is a tiv. 10% of what you make, you give out back to the community. So it's a gift type thing. And so when we talk about this, we're talking about a charitable remainder trust. So that once you're done using everything, and as we talked about consuming, the remainder that's there is extended on to beneficiaries. And so we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Charitable remainder trust and charitable remainder unit trust. Because that's basically what we're looking at. and we spoke a little bit on it before as it goes to the irrevocable trust, probated wills and this and that. You got a revocable trust during your lifetime that you can change up. You've got a revocable trust or irrevocable trust that can't be changed, so that once certain conditions are met, the trust is collapsed and the beneficiaries are paid out their disbursements. So, and that can happen in your lifetime. You can create those kind of irrevocable trusts, or by fact of law, the irrevocable trust upon probate of wills, when you pass on, either testate or intestate, there's an administration of the will, and that's in a probate case. Other than that, again, like I said before, it's all trust law. Yes, and there we go again. Spendthrift clauses. That's what the Social Security is. It's a charitable remainder trust or unit trust, because mom and dad had a trust, an estate trust, as a business name, as a United States business, operated at the state level, and it's got funds in it that it carried on as a remainder. And they're still effectuating those. And when you pass on, there's going to be a remainder there unless you correct those records. So anyway, with that, we are done for tonight. You got anything on the way out, Jesse?
No, I don't really have much going on. I went and checked the mail today. I got a couple return receipts, but that was about it. So I'm hoping for some good mail to come in, but nothing yet. And I think that they're waiting on me to show up at the county and to finalize what needs to be taken care of, and I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, with the registrar?
Yeah. I need to go. I got a few pieces of paper that I'm working on. I'm going to get it together, and then hopefully in the next week I'm going to go take care of business.
All right. All right. Well, I'm going to give you, I've got your number, I believe, so I'm going to give you a call tomorrow and talk to you about the authentication stuff, and I've got some stuff lined up for tomorrow night's stream as well already, so we'll give you a shout tomorrow, brother.
All right. I'll let you tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.
Be blessed now. Oops. And you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. We'll see everybody next time.